All right, I'm going to start this talk with a trailer instead of the other way around. So, Mr. Camera Dude, let's roll this. It's not as good as yesterday's trailer, but it's all right. Let me see if I can get my presentation up, and I'm going to kick into this. So, do I have a presentation, gents? All right, well, that was a little bit of a downer. Can I have a presentation? Do it. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to talk to you guys today about Satlantis, which is, we don't have a real way to frame it really simply, so we're calling it a travel and community social network. And just to get a sense, has anyone heard of Nostr here? Yep, okay, well, that's good. All right, how many people use Nostr actively? I'm watching, okay. Hopefully this will change that. But before I get into discussing the product, I just want to sort of make a few points here, which is, the first one is going on a journey used to be something exciting. And now, if you want to go and travel anywhere, you're on like 6,000 websites, you're on TripAdvisor, you're on Instagram, you're bookmarking things, you're here, there, everywhere. I know I see this a lot in the Bitcoin space when people want to go and visit a place, they go on Twitter and they're like, hey, who knows someone in like, Punta Cana or in Berlin or here or there, and like it's like really disconnected. And there's been these things like the Bitcoin walk that just came up. There's the 21 21 world movement that has started out of Europe that are trying to kind of like piece this together, but all of them are still spread across Twitter, Telegram, WhatsApp, Meetup.com, Facebook groups, this, that. And it just makes the whole process of traveling and community really really disconnected. Travel or discovering new places used to be something that we wanted to do. Like we used to want to discover and find things. Now we are spending all of our times like flicking through fake reviews, right? Like I don't know how many of you have seen, like I think there was some stats I read that 44% of Google reviews are like fake, which is ridiculous. And you've literally got companies like this over here that help businesses fake their reviews by removing bad reviews. So it kind of like destroys the very trust fabric of the internet, which is a big reason why the internet is broken. Travel used to be, and community used to be, a social experience. And these days, people are just traveling on their own. Like there's this whole rise of the solo traveler, which is quite sad. People, it's not in every country. I see this more in the West. In like Brazil, when I land back in Brazil, there's always like families waiting for people when they walk through the exits. In America, you got Uber waiting for you. So it's a little bit depressing. So we've got to fix that too. And my whole sort of thesis behind this thing is that we don't need more notifications, or another to-do list or anything like that. We need some more connection. We need to find a way to establish a platform or a fabric for that to happen. And I love my memes, as you can tell. And we've got on one side, which way Western man, we've got like the WEF and the globalists and all that sort of stuff want to tell us that we are going to move into one direction, you will all nothing and be happy, and we're all in this together, which we're not. And that's sort of one way. But at the same time, you have this sort of like rising I don't know what to call it, like a new set of narratives rising, and they're grassroots narratives, which is really important because the other narrative is top down, right? these grassroots narratives, like the sovereign individual, the network state, nomading, all of these sorts of things are giving rise literally to a new way of life. And, you've got our little Noster ostrich coming and, sort of the Bitcoin promised land. But the kind of stuff that it's giving rise to is this. There is 35 million digital nomads in the world today. And this is like growing over 100% every year. It's 100% in the last 3 years. So like it's a compounded rate of like 20-25% a year. It's insane. And like if you were to consider the digital nomads as a country, it'd be the 41st largest country in the world. Like when I was digging down this rabbit hole, I was like blown away by the statistics. It's almost $1 trillion a year. I don't know if you can call it an industry or a movement or something like that. But these groundswelling narratives are creating a new way of life. People are looking for places to be, to live, to move that treat them better. But they're stuck, all of these people are stuck, as I said earlier, using 101 different apps. Like they're using WhatsApp and their Facebook groups and Meetup, and people are using Tinder to travel as well. So it's like all sorts of weird shit going on out there. So we wanted to build something new where you can have like a city page or a location that you can follow in the same way you might follow a person or a merchant or something like on general social media. And that city page helps you discover everything relevant, useful, interesting to you about the city. So the way you can think about it is basically like, and I've been trying to find a way to help people conceptualize it really easy. And this is sort of a good framework. It's a bit like Instagram profiles or the Instagram social component with Google reviews, with the travel component of TripAdvisor and the events or meetup component of meetup.com. So it's like, imagine if you could merge the sort of the components of these things and use the city page as a directory as your sort of focal point. You can potentially develop something new. And what's important is if you use a substrate, something like Nostr, I believe you can do this really differently, where instead of like all of these platforms on the right here, they treat you as the product. Your identity, your followers, your audience, everything is actually owned by them. So they say, like in the content creation and marketing space, they say the only audience you own is your email list. Every other audience you rent, right? So you rent your audience on Twitter, you rent your audience on Instagram, because you're effectively, your identity is living on the application layer. It's given to you by them. So if they want to switch you off, this is, everyone's yelling about censoring, but if they want to switch you off, they can switch you off. Whereas if we lean into this new paradigm, and one of the things I was speaking with Luke Broyles earlier about Nostr that I really love is it's very much like Bitcoin in that your identity becomes a bearer instrument in the same way as Bitcoin is a monetary bearer instrument. And, I said to him, as we were sort of like riffing, I said, you wouldn't, if you've got a brain, go and build all of this wealth. And if you've got $1 billion, go and store it in a bank. If you knew something like Bitcoin existed, you would want to take ownership of that money and hold it yourself. Why would you go and build all of this social capital and reputation and store it in a social bank like Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or any of these sorts of things? So that's kind of the same thing what people are doing. And I don't think people realize how much the creator economy is going to transform the world moving forward. Your reputation, your identity online is going to become extremely valuable. So you will want to own that, which is why we decided to build something like Satlantis, which is a tool that is generally needed with Nostr as the basis. And I love this meme. Well, this isn't even a fucking meme, but this is a something. I think Pablo, who's one of the Nostr guys, saw this somewhere. It's like, follow us on blah, 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 blah. So you won't need to do that anymore. You have one place, one NPub that people can follow you on, and they can find you on a universe of different Nostr applications, because now the identity layer is being pushed down to the protocol. The social graph is being pushed down to the protocol, and you interact with that through a different set of clients. So for us, our client, like what we want to build, as I said, is more travel and community oriented. So what you'll find here is the homepage. When you land on it, you're not just given a feed, because desktops are not really great for feeds, unless it's a Twitter feed that kind of works. But even then, Desktops, I think, are great for discovery. And what we try to do here is when you go to Satlantis, you are shown all of the cities that are on Satlantis. And, one day, hopefully, if we're successful, you'll see every city in the world on here. And ideally, in the long run, the cities that you see and the order that you see them in will be dependent upon who you are, what your interests are, who you follow, etc. So there'll be dynamic rankings. We'll all see a different version of Satlantis based on who we are. And then when you click into a city, you get this kind of directory feel. And the directory feel, as I said, I think is really important for a city page, because on the directory you can find things like scores, you can find the local chats that are happening, or events, or merchants. You can discover like a gallery to get a sense for what the city looks like. You have this feed which essentially listens. This is one of the beautiful things about Nostr. If I'm on Primal or Damus or Amethyst or any other Nostr-enabled application, and I post something and I hashtag a city, or I mention a city, it will show up in the city feed on Satlantis, because we are listening to the whole Nostr network, or at least as many relays as we can. So that way there's relevant, spontaneous stuff in here. So like if you look at something like TripAdvisor, right? When you go to a particular city, the only thing TripAdvisor will show you is content that they've produced and reviews from people on TripAdvisor that you're not connected to, that you don't know. Whereas here, you will see content that is influenced by the people you follow and the people you know, and you'll see dynamic content through the feed. And this has not been done before. This is something that Nostr enables, because you can bring the social graph and identity into an application that is quite novel. So this is sort of another view of it. City pages, locally relevant content, people, scores and reviews, local chats, events, all this sort of stuff. So there's going to be a bunch of events if anyone's coming to Prague that are going to be on there. There'll be lovely Rachel here is putting on the Women in Bitcoin event, which I'm not going to say the French one because my French sucks, okay? But at the same time as it's a directory, the mobile experience, which isn't ready yet, but it's coming soon, the mobile experience is going to look and feel a hell of a lot like Instagram. So it's going to be very visual focused, visual, image, video on the profile, and the feed will feel very much like Instagram. But the difference being that you can follow not only people, but you can follow places, which includes cities and neighborhoods, and you can follow an event, for example. So once again, with the Women in Bitcoin event, you can follow that account and you will see their events that are coming in. You can even follow individual events. You could, in the future, and this will be coming when we introduce Zaps, is let's say one of the Women in Bitcoin events needs to raise a little bit of money. You can zap the event directly. So all sorts of stuff is unlocked on the Nostr space that you just couldn't do before. So it's a directory, it's a social network, and this is probably one of my favorite pieces, it's also a merchant map. So for me, I think this is a massive, massive unlock, and it's something that wasn't possible before. I live in Brazil, as Dan mentioned yesterday, and Instagram is huge in Brazil. Absolutely huge. Like, I think other than America, I think it's like by far the biggest market. And there's a lot of like really interesting, the island that we live on has a lot of, it's the third biggest tourist destination in the country. So Rio's first, São Paulo is second. Rio has 16 million people. São Paulo has 23 or 24 million people. Florianopolis, where I live, is the third most tourist focused destination. It only has 500,000 people. So just to give you an idea of like how like it's a real draw card for people. And they have some incredible like venues there, coffee shops and bakeries and awesome like organic shops and food and all this sort of stuff. Great restaurant scene there. And they do really well with their Instagram following. And there's one place that opened up down the road from us, and they have 117,000 followers on Instagram. And this is their fifth shop, but the shop only has 5 reviews on Google Reviews. It's completely disconnected. It doesn't make any sense, right? So with Satlantis, merchants will be able to build an audience like they would on Instagram, have all of their information like they have on Google, and have the reviews. And now the best thing about the reviews is when you go onto this profile and you look at the reviews, the ones you're going to see are more likely to be the ones from either people you follow or people in their social circle or in their social circle, depending on how far we have to go, which means there is a greater degree of relevance to the reviews, number one, and the reviews are more likely to be real, not just fake bots. Sure, there will be definitely fake bots on Nostr as well, but using Web of Trust, you can minimize the visibility of bots and make sure that people who are actually building a Nostr profile will be visible on there. So you've got this product now that is possible. You can merge a directory with a social network with a merchant map, which you just couldn't do before. So I want to leave you guys with like a final thought here, is that I believe that the future of travel will be dynamic, and this is novel in an approach, meaning that you won't go to Google or TripAdvisor or Instagram and actively have to search for stuff. In the future, in 5-10 years from now, when this is much larger, you'll just go to Satlantis and you'll click on the city, and the city you see, the events, the merchants, the things, the people, etc., what you see will be defined or influenced, I should say, by who you follow, what you've liked, the reviews that you found helpful, the kind of content that you've engaged with, what you've bookmarked, what you've saved, the guides that you've found useful, the things that you've zapped, etc. That will influence the city that you see. And when you log into a city or follow a city, and I follow a city, we will see something completely different that is more unique to us. And that, I think, is what's missing from the world of existing travel apps, which are static. We're moving into a dynamic world, and something like Nostr, for me, makes this possible, and for me, secondly, is what is special about Nostr. A lot of people talk about like the censorship resistance and all this sort of stuff about Nostr, and I think, yeah, that's cool, but honestly, most people don't give a shit about the censorship resistance. What we need to do if we want to make Nostr successful is we need to build clients, or we need to build products and services that have that you can do something with that you just couldn't do previously in the old paradigm. And that's why the best products always win. Amazon did something that traditional bookstores couldn't do before. Apple did something that traditional phones and computers didn't do before, etc. So this is the kind of approach that we need to take, and this is what me and the team are trying to do here. So for anyone who's interested, if you do want to get on Satlantis, this is very, 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 very early. So it's like still a baby. This is, in fact, I shouldn't even be talking about it here, but I decided to just do it for Plumman. I'm officially announcing a beta to the world in Prague next year, but you can get on there now. If you're already on Nostr, you're already on Satlantis. Okay, so you will need, it's desktop only. It's not mobile at the moment. If you want to log into the desktop, you'll need an extension, because we're not doing your copy and paste your secret key to us. We don't want to do any of that shit. So you put your secret key into an extension like Albi, keys.band. There's a bunch of good extensions out there. And then you can one-click log into Satlantis. All of your followers, everyone will be there already. It is optimized for city discovery and travel. So you can go on there already. You can do all that sort of stuff. You can, if you want the mobile experience, just go on Primal or Damus. Post anything about a city. Say, I was at this great restaurant today in Sofia. Hashtag Sofia at the end of your post. It will show up in the Sofia feed on Satlantis, so that people who are on the desktop can see what you posted. So that's like the magic and the interconnectedness of all of it. The other thing I'd like to also tell you guys to do is we've done something a little bit cheeky. Is we have pulled everything from OpenStreetMaps, which is an open source competitor to Google Maps, but we also kind of found our way into sucking a bunch of information from Google Maps. So in the cities that are present there, not every city, but a couple of the main ones, particularly like Prague and stuff, not Sofia yet, but I can do it, is all of the merchants in that city are there. And we haven't picked every merchant. We focus more on cafes, restaurants, health, gyms, spas, all that sort of stuff, co-working, etc. Their profile's already there. We've pulled them all in from Google. We've pulled in their information. You can go to merchants, instead of telling merchants, hey, you should accept Bitcoin, and they're looking at you like, what the fuck is Bitcoin? How am I going to do this? What's the accounting problem? No. You can tell them, hey, there is a new travel and community social network that's growing. You've already got a profile on there. You just need to claim it. They can go in, they can claim their profile. They don't need to know anything about Nostr, about Bitcoin, about any of that sort of stuff. They can claim their profile. They can build an audience. They can build reviews, etc. And by default, they won't have it today because we're still in beta, but in the coming months, by default, they'll have a Bitcoin wallet and they'll have a Nostr NPub. This is how we actually orange pill the world, not by telling them Bitcoin and waving a fucking Bitcoin flag in their face and ramming it down their throats and all this sort of stuff. Nobody wants to hear that shit. You want to tell them that, hey, you as a merchant can now build an audience, and you can open up by joining Satlantis, you have access to 1 million people on Nostr that are traveling, that are looking for places, that are looking to discover merchants. You should be on here. Yelp sucks. Google reviews is okay, but Satlantis is better. So if you guys want to go out and do that stuff, you can. As I said, we haven't sucked in everything from Sophia yet, but if you bear with us in the coming weeks and month or whatever, all of the cities will start pulling them in. But yeah, that's where we're at. So if anyone wants to, I encourage you to follow Satlantis on Nostr, on Instagram, on Twitter, all that sort of stuff. So yes, we are still using the old social networks because we need to funnel people. But yeah, that's the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it got you thinking.
Hold up there, Alex. We got some time. I'm sure there's some people that might want to ask you a few questions.
Let's do it. Let's do some questions.
Rachel already wants to ask a question. Yeah.
Correct.
Right. So just to repeat the question, how do you protect the business claiming the correct profile and not trolling?
This is where creativity comes in. So we're going to use Google to do this. So if they're a business, they've already got a Google profile. Otherwise, they haven't been sucked in, right? So they've already got a Google profile. What they have to do is they need to click the claim button, and then we will generate them a unique code, and they need to put that code in a post on their Google profile, which only the Google profile owner can do. And then we read the post and then we activate it. So if it's somebody else, they can't do it. Only the owner of the Google thing. So fuck you, Google. We're going to use you against yourself.
Yes, Ivan. Are you also going to incorporate the information from BTC Maps to help plebs find merchants?
we actually leapfrog BTC Maps. So we're working with Nathan on that. And what Nathan has done is he's just basically put a tag on OpenStreetMaps. So we just pulled in all the tags. So by default, Satlantis comes with every single merchant and more, like 10 times more or 100 times more than BTC Maps. And it is just a tag on Satlantis. So you can see any merchant that is Bitcoin friendly or not. So you can filter by that. Yeah, you'll be able to filter by Bitcoin, by seed oils, by all sorts of stuff, because we're doing something with Seed Oil Scout. So yeah, it'll have all of it.
Another question there. Yes, sir. Will there be any censorship on the platform?
So the interesting thing about Nostr clients is so let's say I'm Mark Zuckerberg, right? And I don't like you for whatever reason. I can block your NPub from Satlantis, but I can't block you from Nostr, right? So you, like every other client, can still pick up your data and still pick up your information and all that sort of stuff. So we, like the way I imagine how clients will work on the Nostr space is everything will be its own curated environment, right? And if I don't want, as Satlantis, we don't want dick pics in our feeds, right? So you post a dick pic, you get banned from Satlantis. Fuck you. So that's totally going to happen. There'll definitely be banning, and I think that's fantastic. But your dick pics will be visible on the other clients who might also ban you, unless there's a porn, like a dick pic, Nostr client, which wants all the dick pics and they can have it. So, that's how this sort of stuff works. And that's what I think clients are really powerful, is that you can do it at the client level, but you can't do it at the protocol level. Does that make sense?
Who's going to start the dick pic Nostr client? There's
sure
going to be a conference. There's going to be a Nostr dick pic conference.
There totally will be.
Is there any final
last question
before we get flashing zeros here? Yes.
Potentially, yeah. So
okay, yeah. So he's asking about would there be any legal implications of companies claiming their profiles and having a Bitcoin wallet, automatically downloaded, which they might face some kind of problem with regulators?
Yeah. So that is a bridge we're going to cross when we get to it. We're so far away from that that it doesn't really matter. The way we're probably going to integrate Bitcoin wallets into Satlantis will probably be through a partnership with someone like Strike or Galloy, so that they are the regulated entity that provides the wallet. I think that's an easier way to do it because we're not going after hardcore Bitcoiners here. We're going after normies and merchants and venues and businesses. They don't have the time to think about that shit, but they might want to get zaps or they might want to get paid directly and all this sort of stuff. So we're gonna have to play a really strategic game here. And maybe we just have to turn it on in jurisdictions, because for us it'll just be a component that we turn on or off in particular regions, for example, or for particular businesses, etc. So right now there is no Bitcoin wallet. So when we get to that, we'll have to definitely think about this, because we thought about this ourselves. We're like, okay, how much of the Bitcoin infrastructure do we even want to own ourselves? I used to run an exchange, and I left the exchange business because I got sick and tired of dealing with regulators. So I don't want to wrap up this product into the exchange space either, because these morons, the regulators just want to put their fingers in everything, right? And they want to slow you down, they want to fuck you over, and all this sort of stuff. So I want to keep the product clear from that. But yeah, very good question. I don't know the specific answer to that other than we'll have to be intelligent and strategic about how we incorporate and integrate that for whether merchants or individuals as well, because it's going to be the same for both. Sure.
So as following up with the point, you might have to, the accounting side might be difficult as well.
Correct, yeah. And I guess it depends what you're accounting for. So maybe the first way people use it is just to zap merchants. They'll be like, oh, this place was fucking great. I love their food. 10,000 sats, whatever. So, or someone might even zap a review, and some part of the review might go back to the merchant. So merchants, we might have to create a feature in there, which is download a statement of all of your Bitcoin income, and they might have to give that to their accountant. The future implications are more like, let's say you're a merchant and 3-4 years down the track, we introduce a feature which is order direct on Satlantis on my merchant page, kind of like you have Uber Eats and stuff like that. And we can sort of encroach and take a piece out of their market. And that is different. And that is like selling a good and a service directly for Bitcoin. So that's going to open up an entirely new rabbit hole. Once again, cross that bridge when we get there.
We're flashing zeros, so a big round of applause for Alex. If you've got any further questions, find him in the hall there. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Excellent.